Welcome to the Vitra Wellness Podcast, vital transformation for mind, body, and beyond. A show where we step away from the algorithm, the trends, and guru culture.
We explore health, healing, faith, relationships, and human potential in a science-backed but simplified and grounded way.
Quick reminder before we begin, we're not your doctor or therapist, and the show is not medical advice. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Today we are kicking off our series that we've been really excited about bringing together because it's truly going to cover the most fundamental 101 things you should know if you are new to a healthy lifestyle, or the things that even if you're decades into your healthy living journey, you pretty much always need to be revisiting and making sure you're perfecting and really implementing. And with us having been in this space and, living this lifestyle for a really long time, it's easy to fall off track with even the things that we know inside and out. So we just want to encourage you that truly from beginner to advanced, this series is covering the 10 most fundamental things that cuts through all the noise, all the trends, all the theories, fads, and extremes that exist out there that have people more confused than ever. And it's the most tried and true, factual, evidence-based, and real move the needle type of principles that will impact your health. So we're going to kick off today with the first pillar, which is nutrition. And I'm going to let Tim take over the very first component. Nutrition, we all know that yeah, we need to eat better, right? But again, I think today's world is more saturated than ever with all of these granular arguments and debates of this versus that. And everything has gotten so technical and so saturated with fads and misinterpreted research that we've truly lost the art and science of simplicity. And that's going to be kind of our fundamental thing that we help you with in this session and this core pillar number one, just to get to the facts and what do you really need to focus on to eat better and start improving your health. So go for it.
Yeah, so these things are like the baseline. So if you nail these, and you're doing a good job. Then you can build off from that. So number one is eat enough protein daily. And you might be asking, well, how much is enough? Well, if you're just general health, normal person, you're not super active, you're just looking to eat better, you need to make sure you get in about half a gram per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you're going to want to shoot for 75 grams of protein at minimum. If you're someone that is more active and you're lifting, you're going to the gym, a few times a week, you're trying to do a healthy lifestyle, you're going to want to shoot for about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So again, if you weigh 150 pounds, you want to shoot for 150 grams of protein. It's kind of at the high end. If you get there, you're doing real good. If you're a little shy of that, don't worry about it. Just make sure you get in enough. Um, and so you might also want to ask, well, what kind of protein? You want to get, some good sources, such as, chicken, beef, fish, eggs. These are all fantastic sources of protein. If you're more on the plant-based side, mixing rice and beans, it's a great way to go. Um, so sourcing is important. It's I would go with those.
So the thing about protein that I think almost anyone should understand is it's not just a bodybuilder thing. And we have different extremes when it comes to if you're consuming online content, you're probably so confused because you have the protein fasters, the people that won't touch protein, the plant-based protein, the only animal protein, that's all they eat, like the carnivore community. And then you have the bodybuilding community that's like, you should have 2.5 grams per pound of body weight. And I think it's important to just kind of go back to the fundamentals of why do we need protein? Why is it important? A couple of the main benefits are, and the main reasons that the average everyday person needs to focus on enough protein is number one, satiety. When you're consuming a predominantly carb-heavy diet, which is 90% of your default food in a restaurant and a gas station, across the board, it's so easy to get fats and protein, but it's hard to get, or fats and carbs, but it's hard to get enough protein. It's going to help satiate you and actually control your appetite. It's going to help regulate your blood sugar. It's going to keep you satisfied. And protein is the only metabolically active macronutrient out of the macronutrients, meaning when you consume protein, it actually burns calories to break it down, unlike carbs and fat. The other thing is protein supplies our brain and our body with the fundamental amino acids that are necessary to do every single thing that we do. We cannot drive to work, we cannot think at work, we cannot pick up our kiddos, we cannot walk the dog. We can't do any of that without adequate amino acids, and we get that from the most effective source from animal-based protein or other proteins in other foods. Like Tim mentioned, there's plant-based options. So we need the nutrients, we need the macros to help build lean muscle, and that's the other reason that we really want to focus on protein, which is lean muscle is one of the core components of longevity. It's one of the core components of avoiding injury as you age, of avoiding osteoporosis and bone breakdown, getting brittle, fragile bones. It's one of the fundamental things of having a healthy, strong metabolism where you can eat enough and actually process through. And there's endless benefits to having a healthy, lean body mass. We're not talking about bodybuilder here, but having a lean body mass requires two things: weightlifting, which is a whole other pillar, and enough protein to break down the muscles and build them up strong. So, if you're one of those people that thinks protein consumption means bodybuilders downing protein shakes after the gym, I just wanted to give that different perspective so you understand that everybody requires enough protein and it takes conscious effort to get enough protein in today's world, and you're not going to turn into a bodybuilder. You're not going to be over consuming or harming your kidneys by getting these levels of protein that we just mentioned. And you'll start to kind of feel some shifts in your energy, and especially if you are in the gym, your strength and recovery right away just by getting enough protein. And if you do struggle with carb cravings, overeating, kind of the binge cycle, that is one of the best ways to help regulate those blood sugar high lows and those craving highs and lows. So protein is like the superhero. That's why we started with it. And I just thought that that was important for people to know. So you can kind of share the how to build a meal around protein, since now we know why it's so important and that it's for everybody.
Well, the protein should be a foundation of how you start a meal. Everything should build around the protein. That should be like the main part of your meal at really any point in the day. Um, so you can ask, like, what's my protein source? Well, chicken. All right, we'll build around that. Maybe have some vegetables with a little bit of butter, olive oil on them, and then maybe some rice. That usually goes pretty well with chicken. You can do some type of pasta as long as it's gluten free, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Um, so just build around the protein for your meal. And if you think like, if you may not be used to eating a whole lot of protein, and you think that your meal has almost like too much, like, wow, this is a lot of protein. I'm not used to eating this. You're probably on the right track.
Yeah.
So you can't really eat too much protein. You can definitely be on the low end, and it's actually very difficult to eat too much protein. It's super hard. So if you feel like you're kind of like slightly outside your comfort zone of eating the amount of protein that we're recommending, that's a good place to be.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna feel like a foreign concept. I mean, for years and years and years, I trained an insane amount of clients, from beginners to newbies to athletes. And the protein part was always the biggest focus, getting them to prioritize that because it's easy to eat enough carbs. It's easy to eat enough fat. That happens by default. You walk out the door in the morning and by default, like, you've eaten enough carbs and fat. But it's so easy to underconsume protein. And then when you're underconsuming, your ratios, the percentages of the carbs to fat to protein is completely off. And that's what really causes not only the health detriments of a disordered diet, but also, again, it really makes all the benefits that you want from exercise or just general metabolic health kind of fly out the window as well. So it feels counterintuitive and it's going to feel really foreign at first until you get used to what it looks like to put protein at every meal. A good example is, if you're at a hotel and you wake up to their continental breakfast, you're going to walk downstairs and you're going to see 72 different types of carbs and, like, maybe some scrambled eggs from a box and maybe some, like, bacon or sausage, which again aren't the healthiest choices for protein, but, like, that's it. You have to really look and work hard to look for that. So when you start inversing that and you make protein the center and prioritizing that, it's going to feel really backwards because it is. But like Tim said, it's not going to be excessive, even though it's going to feel that way, just because it's counterintuitive. So just making it the center and building your meal around that will go a really long way, and you'll start to move the needle and just tip the balance of the ratios in your favor for sure. Um, so let's talk about sources of protein and one of the things that I'm the most passionate about here. So I'll just take this one. Whole foods. We've already kind of covered that. Like, obviously, going back to when you think of protein consumption, you might be like, oh, what about protein shakes? And one of the pillars, just a spoiler, I think we're going to mention the spoilers to the other pillars throughout this episode. There is a whole pillar that we're going to talk about supplementation. So we'll go into that in depth. Supplementation, protein shakes can have their place. They really can, especially depending on your schedule and the amounts that you need. But they should always be a supplement, like an actual addition to what you're consuming in whole foods as a whole across the board. The biggest thing, and I think this almost should have been what we started with, but we just wrote down the things that were important, and here we go. But the biggest thing that you should prioritize across the board, no matter what your goals are, when it comes to nutrition, is eating whole foods. What is whole foods? If you've ever even so much as listened to a single podcast on nutrition, you've probably heard this, but just in case you haven't, and because this is so like 101, you maybe you've never even thought about nutrition, I'm going to explain that a whole food is literally if it grew out of the ground, if it walked, swam, or flew somewhere, if it came from the earth, prioritize it. It is a single ingredient. And another way to look at this and to differentiate what a whole food is think of the perimeter of your grocery store. You walk in and you have the produce section, and then you have the deli, which is like meats, and then you have a lot of the backside is like the fish and that department, and then you have the meats over there. Like, around the far corner is kind of the frozen foods, which is a mix. But if you just literally look at the perimeters of your grocery store, that's mostly where the whole foods are. It's all those aisles in between where everything comes from: a box, a bag, again, a freezer container that has a list of ingredients that's a mile long. Any of that is a processed food. And of course, there's different degrees of processing. And that does matter because, again, sometimes you need a frozen meal. Sometimes you need those things. So this isn't about perfection. There is room for either something that you really enjoy that comes from a package, or just sometimes out of necessity. Again, I've worked with so many different people from so many different walks of life, and I've helped people find solutions no matter what their barrier is, whether it's they got 6 kids running around, they work double shifts, overtime, night shifts, like whatever it is, there is a solution. But the simplest goal to aim for is whole foods. And that's also the most cost effective, which is really good news because there's this myth that eating healthy is so expensive. And sure, there's a hierarchy of quality that we recommend whatever is in your means, go to the highest tier of that quality. But the reality is a low quality meat will always be better for you and more nutrient dense and nutrient rich than something that comes from a package and is highly processed. It's not going to have all the additives, all the chemicals. It's going to be more nutrient dense. So I wouldn't get so caught up in the quality and the sourcing and what about grass fed and organic. Again, those things matter, but when you're starting out, the more you fixate on those details, the more you lose track of what really matters, which is whole foods and learning how to consistently prepare those, learning how to budget to afford those, learning the flavors and the ways you like to combine things. But whole foods is the thing that you should be focusing on and learning how to cook and prepare that. I've often said I started reading nutrition books when I was literally a child because I wanted to lose weight. And so I would rent nutrition books and diet books from the library when I was like legitimately 14 years old. And I've studied nutrition and the latest research consistently throughout my career. And the thing that I've always said to put this in perspective for people is the more I have learned and the more I have studied over 20 years plus in this space, the simpler my advice gets. And this is like the one tried and true over 20 plus years principle that I always go back to. So again, It's not that just I'm trying to make it simple or I'm trying to not give you the sciencey stuff. It's like even if I did, this would still be the thing that all science, all research, all facts point to being the most important thing. So choosing whole foods is imperative. Don't get caught up in the details and the specifics. Just go there and build on that. So that's my little soapbox for the whole foods, and I'll let Tim go with the next one, which kind of speaks to this, but is also a little bit of its own thing.
Well, I do want to add on to the Whole Foods, just comment on that. This, the Whole Foods advice is to say that it applies to every single stage on your health journey, whether you are a super beginner or you are like me that's been in the gym for 20 plus years. Um, Whole foods are essential. And I'll also say I don't even use whey protein. All my protein sources are whole foods. So it's certainly possible to do. So with that, I'll get on to the next one, which is very near and dear to my heart, is reduced added sugars, which it can be difficult, but it is certainly possible.
I feel like it's so much easier for you than me though, because you don't seem to have an innate sweet tooth like I. Like at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, you're not like, "Do you want to go get ice cream?" Like I am.
So I can have a sweet tooth if I don't keep it in check.
Yeah, okay.
There's a time in my life when I would eat Swedish fish by the box,
Well,
but
that's true.
that was a long time ago.
We should talk about that in bulking after you get to your point, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, Swedish fish and sleeves of Oreos, but
Yeah.
that's another topic. That's another time. Um, so you don't have to cut out sugar entirely. I'm just talking about reducing it, being more cognitive of it. Like if you do get something from a box, which it's fine, you can't avoid completely processed foods completely. It's almost impossible. But when you look at a food label, look at the added sugar. If there's a ton of added sugar, maybe avoid that and pick something else. So if you can do this properly and really reduce the amount of added sugar that you take in, your energy will improve, your hormonal balance will improve, and your cravings will improve too. It's kind of a bit of positive feedback loop. The less sugar that you eat, the less you will crave. It just takes some consistency and practice there.
I think there's a couple really important things to mention about with this reduced sugar thing. One, and this has been like a trend and a fad since I went on my first diet again as like a 9-year-old and then through my teens and stuff in the 90s. There's this whole concept of, snack size portions. And in my day, again, when I was dieting, it was like these little Snackwell portions where it was literally cookies, plain, simple, good old fashioned cookies, but in a serving size so small that it had 100 calories. So you would get them and you'd be like, "Oh, yay, this is just 100 calories. This is a healthy snack," right? It was Snackwells in a green package. There's so much marketing that goes into this. But it was sugar. And when you ate it, it would ignite the sugar monster, the craving monster, the blood sugar. And like for most people, there was probably some people that conservatively ate the little bag of sugar in 100 calories and they were good with that. But what happened with most people is they ate it and it ignited that craving monster and then they went back and ate another one and another one. And before it was all said and done, they'd eaten 4 packs of cookies, still eaten 400 calories. And then they wonder, like, why could I not control myself? Like pure sugar, the higher sugar content something has, the more it is going to make it difficult to not consume a high amount of it. Like sugar begets sugar cravings. Like it is a feedback loop, as Tim said. So when you're looking at reducing sugar, it goes back to that whole foods thing. If you're looking at something or you're maybe baking a fresh like muffin from scratch and you're using high quality grains and you're maybe adding some protein powder and you're kind of working on that macro balance, that's a lot different than trying to just have a small portion of, okay, I'm just going to have 3 Oreos, that's pure sugar, full of chemicals, little excitotoxins that are going to get your brain all excited. And then it's going to be really hard to not eat more than that. So it's not only total sugars, as in reducing it overall in your life, it's the amount in the food and what it does to you and how hard it makes it to limit the consumption of those foods. So again, if you're looking for, hey, I want something sweet in my life, finding healthier replacements or cooking things from scratch, or best case scenario, replacing it with, fruits, something that's sweet but has fiber and nutrients and stuff, it's going to be a lot different than just trying to like eat the sugar but in smaller amounts. And I just think that that is really important to note. And the other thing that I want to just highlight is, again, if it comes from a package across the board, if it's sweet and it comes from a package, there's a really good chance it has natural flavors, MSG, and different addictive chemicals that are going to compound that I need to eat the whole bag component, So, do you want to make your life easier by cutting out that high concentration of sugar completely and finding other resources? Or do you want to be stuck in this white knuckle, like, I'm basically trying to limit my alcohol consumption, but I'm an alcoholic? Because a lot of people struggle with food addiction and sugar addiction and carb addictions. And that is important because if you're listening and you've historically identified as one of those things, then sometimes simply reducing the amount that you consume or just trying to eat a little less, it's a lost cause. It's not very effective, which is why people stay in those cycles. So sometimes just fully saying I'm not going to eat sugar out of a box that has, a list of processed chemicals and all these other additives, because I know that's a slippery slope, will be the best thing. But if you are one of those people that don't have a problem with it, then just trying to reduce it and trying to eat the smaller portions is absolutely a great choice. There's just two very different camps of people in that, and I thought that that was worth addressing. Is there anything else you want to add on the sugar? Maybe kind of, I don't know, the sauces, the way all the
Yeah,
little things add up.
yeah, that's kind of what I was saying with being cognizant of it. Like sugar can sneak into just about everything, and you wouldn't even realize it unless you actually look at the label. Um, so just be a bit more vigilant if you're trying to avoid sugar, which I highly recommend, at least reducing it. The only other thing I will say is that fruit is totally fair game. Anyone that tries to say that fruit equals sugar is completely wrong, and they're trying to sell you something. So fruit is awesome.
It is a sugar, but you're not going to binge on bananas or oranges likely. So
Correct.
again, it's like
Correct.
not necessarily where the focus needs
Right.
to
You
be.
also
But
have a fiber component in there that helps with satiety, which helps with digestion and glucose metabolism. So fruit and sugar
yeah.
are not the same thing.
I will admit that I'm one of those people, though, that the easier access fruit is for me, the harder it is for me. Like, if we have grapes in there, they're so good. Like, I can eat, like, a whole bowl of them. I am such a little, like, muncher. It's very much like a sensory thing for me. So things that are small and crunchy, like, I can overconsume very easily. Grapes, again, it's not that you don't have to worry about it at all, but it's just typically so low on the list of where you should put your time, because if you're eating enough protein and you're eating whole foods and you're getting the fiber in and your blood sugar is managed, fruit is kind of non-problematic. If someone doesn't do all of those things and they're just consuming fruit all day every day, could that be problematic? Sure, but we're talking about like putting all this together because it does all work together. But can you overconsume fruit? Sure, you can, especially if it's in the blended form, like a smoothie at Smoothie King, where it's all the added sugars again. And even like canned fruits or applesauces, a lot of times have added sugars, but you can overconsume it. I've done it before in my life, but it certainly doesn't leave me with a inflammation hangover or anything like that. But the other thing I wanted to note was we did the Daniel fast in January. We did it from my birthday through when I ran the 5K on January 31st. And again, we don't eat a lot of sugar. Like, I mean, honestly, I definitely struggle with it. So most of the time we have it when we're out. Like, we get ice cream, I'll get a gluten-free cake, whatever. But when it's in the house, like, I definitely will eat it. So we don't have it in the house. We don't have a lot of sweets. So I thought we were like good. We said no coffee, no dairy, and no sugar, like no added sugars whatsoever. And again, even someone who's like lived and breathed this and studied this clinically for so many years, it didn't shock me because it's not that I didn't know, but just the things I would automatically reach for, like ketchup. Because we eat a lot of protein, I put ketchup on everything. And it's like, whoa, okay, the second ingredient is like tomatoes, ketchup. Again, not that I didn't know that. That was one of the things that I consumed, but it just stopped me and us from so many things that we would just like reach for or grab, or, oh, that has sugar in it, or, oh, just this little bite of chocolate after dinner that we would do. And I think that that is so helpful if you're one of the people that's on the advanced side. Give yourself a month to like cut all the things out that you think are not an issue, just to do it, but also just to increase your awareness around the impact that it has. So, we certainly, I think if you looked at our pantry or our lifestyle, you would never say like we have a sugar problem, but still there were all these little things, whether out or in our house, that we had to shift and do differently to avoid the dairy and the sugar mostly. And it was informative and helpful, it's just like, "Oh, wow." And it also makes you like, appreciate something when you have it in. It's like, "Oh, wow, now ketchup is the thing that I'm really excited about instead of cake," 'cause I did without it for a couple weeks. So, anyway, sugars can be sneaky, but for sure, reducing them will help you a lot, especially staying compliant with your nutrition goals and not going off the deep end with overconsuming. And that leads us to carbs. And should we cut out carbs? Should we be afraid? Are carbs and sugar the same? Let's talk about that.
Well, yeah, carbs and sugar, they're in the same class for sure. They're both a carbohydrate. One is highly refined, that one's sugar. Carbs, though, come in many different forms. So think fruit, rice, potatoes. There's carbs in vegetables. Quinoa is another great option. But to say all that, I'm saying that carbs are not the enemy. They absolutely are not. You need carbs to have energy. Um, you need glucose to perform, to think, to do anything. Just like protein is necessary for life, carbs necessary for energy. Not to get into the weeds of like stuff like keto and everything. We can talk about all that at some point. But for the vast majority of people, especially people lifting lots of weights, you need some carbs in your life. Okay, but the source of where you get them is really important. So, like I said, fruit, rice, potatoes, vegetables, quinoa. Avoid the highly processed stuff, as we just uh, just discussed ad nauseum, um, and liquid sugar as well. Like anything that comes in a drink, like soda, like you don't need any of that. There could be a case to be made for sugar before lifting. That's something different. We're just talking about in general. Um, we want to stick to whole food sources of carbs, and to not be scared of them. They're your friend.
Yeah. And the liquid sugar, a note on that. One, that would also include alcohol, even though alcohol is a separate thing. So you have carbs, protein, fats, and then you have alcohol. It's 7 calories per gram. And that's a whole other thing outside of the caloric impact, because of the way it impacts your liver and all the things. But essentially, alcohol is a sugar, and it's very hard to metabolize and process. So it's not just about the calorie content in your Michelob Light or Ultra or all the trendy drinks that, are out there marketed towards women specifically, of like, "Oh, this is a light version and it only has a few calories." It's not just about the calorie content. It's what it does to your body, and your body will literally prioritize processing alcohol out of your system over anything else. So you just ate 100 calories of chips and salsa with your friends when you had that margarita. The second the alcohol is in your system, your body is like all like abandons all other systems and caloric burn to prioritize detoxifying that alcohol. So it's a big hit to your body overall, and it impacts your metabolism quite substantially, especially for people that drink a lot. So alcohol isn't on here specifically, but we knew we were going to mention it in here. And I think this is the best place, because liquid calories is not just soda. It's not just, okay, I had juice and, I drank a Coke. And since we're talking about Coke, we should also talk about artificial sweeteners here. We didn't even touch on that with the sugar component. So a lot of times people, they're like, okay, so sugar's bad. Sugar causes cravings, but I need something sweet. And there's this is a whole other episode. All of these are things that we could go really deep into. We're trying to just give you like the little 101. This one is definitely worth talking about though, because when you are kind of hooked on sugar and you consume a lot and you've got those cravings, you try to cut it out and it's just like, whew, what do? You go and you grab a 6-pack of Diet Coke and you're like, I'll just drink all the Diet Cokes. There's research that shows, and people argue about this. Experts are always going to argue about everything. But more than anything, I think the anecdotal evidence on this is enough to make you not want to do it. When you drink something sweet, your body does not know it's an artificial sweetener void of calories. It still triggers a little insulin release and it still triggers a craving where your body's like, I want more. I want more. I've honestly never really known anybody that conservatively drinks diet sodas or Crystal Lights. It's like an all day, everyday thing. Very, very hard addiction to break. I'm one of those people that like literally once a year, I might just like have a hankering for a diet drink. Like I really do enjoy them.
Diet Mountain Dew.
Like, I used to do Diet Mountain Dew. Now it's more like a Diet Pepsi or something when I'm getting my nails done or whatever. But it always makes me want more and more and more and more. And I definitely went through a phase in the dieting world where all they told you to do is like drink a Diet Coke when you were craving something, drink Crystal Light. Like we would make a gallon of this Crystal Light, put a whole packet in there and chug it at the gym. It was like such a part of the culture. And I always had a headache and I always felt like crap and I always craved more and more and more and more. So if you think that's the solution, I would tread very cautiously there. Sugar-free Jello was another thing. I would eat like 6 packs of sugar-free Jello, just like the little uh cookie thing, the can't even remember what they were called, the snack wells. It was the same thing when I was trying to consume all of these like no calorie or low calorie foods. My body was like, where's the calories? Where's the real calories? So when you're cutting sugar, that kind of includes anything that tastes sweet, whether it's marketed as having calories or not. That's so important to know. You're just going to set yourself up not only for the chemical component of it, but for the sugar to just constantly be on the tip of your tongue and your brain to actually want more. Now, coming back to this whole liquid sugar thing and calories, alcohol is very problematic in a lot of different ways, but if you're going to drink, honestly, just drinking simple, like a shot of liquor with soda water and a lime, the cleanest, that's the best that you can do. Obviously, added sugars are a whole other thing, but just know that the alcohol by itself has an effect far outside the added sugars or the calories. So that's important there. The other thing I wanted to mention, I there's so much in the trendy health space, and I think that's why we've got to talk about all of this, where you've got the keto people, the carnivore people, the plant-based people, the Ray Peat people that are all about like just consume sugar and stuff. And I have literally not went a month of my life, I don't think, since I was like 15 years old without looking at some type of nutritional research and trying stuff on. We have gone through so many protocols and lifestyle changes.
We've done all of
Like
those.
we've literally done all of them. So it's not that we just have this stance of like, that's bad, this is good. We actually have a non-stance really. But I do think it's important to say that from a clinical perspective, if someone asks me about keto, I do not have the keto is terrible for you. You have to have carbs to survive. It's the worst thing on earth, because I have done clinical keto and studied. That's probably the area that I have went the deepest with in my own health journey, and then just from a clinical like research perspective for the last over 10, 11 years. 12 years really.
Yep.
And it has incredible mind-blowing benefits for the right people done in the right way. That being said, is the way modern keto is being marketed and hyped up in the last 4 or 5 years with chemical-laden food, and everything's just this packaged keto something,
Keto
and
bread.
and keto bread, and everything has erythritol and artificial sweeteners, and everything is dairy and bacon. Do I think that that is the thing you should stay so far away from? Absolutely, yes. So, again, I think we're gonna definitely go into like the carbs versus no carbs on another episode, because I love that area of science and research. But as a whole, what applies to most people and is the most helpful and the most sustainable for the average everyday person in the simplest terms? And it is absolutely a balanced macronutrient diet full of healthy whole foods, healthy fats, balanced carbs, and protein at the center. And that again, I could say that 100 different ways and belabor that point. But I just wanted to say keto has its place and it can be very therapeutic. And I do cyclic keto and all of that. But that is not something that the average person should do in desperation to lose a bunch of weight quickly, because it will likely cause more harm than good, amplify disordered eating, and end up not getting you to your goal, just set up more like binge crave cycles and stuff, than it's worth. So we'll go into that on another episode. It has its place, but for now, just know it's not that we're naive or ignorant to the benefits of keto or trying to say that it's awful. It's just a whole other level that the average person, which this episode is for, doesn't need to be worried about. So you just rest assured, go unfollow all the keto carnivore people that you think have the keys to the kingdom, because this is probably not for you. So that was long-winded, but it was important to say all of that.
Yeah, I think we've both seen plenty of people go headfirst into keto, be really consistent with it, and then just fall off the wagon in a not good way.
Yeah.
It's keto is a wonderful diet with lots of benefits, but for the average person, super difficult to maintain, super easy to get out of keto. So like she said, we'll dive into that at some point. But if you can stick to balanced diet, like we're saying, with whole food sources, uh, you're gonna be winning.
You're gonna get a lot of the things that keto kind of promises to give you, like the balanced blood sugar, which reduces cravings, which helps you have energy. And so many of the things that people aim for with keto are achievable with other diets if you do the things that we're outlining here: whole foods, protein first, fiber rich diet. Um, Also, the other thing that I'm going to say, because I just like to be thorough with this and try to speak to as many people that might be listening as possible, we will talk about my chronic illness story and the depths of and the severity of my health issues and the food reactions that I had and all the different things which pushed me into corners far beyond what I ever had studied just from a nutritionist perspective. And there are certainly things that for people with autoimmune disorders and all of these special circumstances, which are more common than rare now, need to know. And that is a thing that's more challenging. That is a thing that, yes, you might need to cut out nightshades or oxalates. There's so many deep nuances. But when this is a foundational level, if you just stick with this for 3 to 6 months, if you're having issues after that with anything, whether it's cravings or food allergies or something, at least at least you're not swinging from all of these extremes and adding more stress to your system. So it's not that we believe that like every single person should just eat whole foods, because you might have a food allergy, you might have a condition that you need to be more specialized with. And from a mental health perspective, ketosis and clinical ketosis is a therapeutic application of nutrition. I mean, it is originally kind of got a lot of traction for being anti-seizure. And what it does in the brain is so much deeper than we're just talking about the average person wanting to have a little bit more energy. So it needs to be understood as that. And it needs to be approached like that, either with guidance, expert guidance, or a deep clinical understanding, not being used as a fad diet with all these packaged, trendy foods that are full of chemicals because you want to lose 10 pounds before a cruise. So, big, big difference there with how that is being approached and recognized. And it might be something that you do in the future, and there's ways to do it to get the most of that and ways to do any protocol. But this is the most applicable to everybody, kind of list and outline here. Okay, so do you want to just touch on fiber? I mean, I think we've almost covered it inadvertently so far.
Yeah, so we were going up to fiber now. Yeah. So yeah, eat another one is eat fiber daily. Fiber is extremely important. Helps your digestion, helps your blood sugar, your gut health, and great sources for that are your obvious ones are eat veggies, all green veggies, fair game. Like I'm not going to get into details on which ones you should avoid or not. If it's green, eat it. um, and the best time to eat it is right before meals, because having fiber beforehand helps your glucose metabolism. It'll help you have more energy after you're done eating, and you'll ultimately just feel better.
And to clarify on that one, you don't have to eat it before your meal, like, an hour before or 30 minutes before. Eat it as like when you sit down to your meal. And you just think about culturally, we do this and we've gotten these food trends and orders. You always get your salad first, right? Well, that's kind of by ancient design in a way. So when you sit down, if you have vegetables on your plate and protein and carbs, eat the vegetables first, then the protein, then the carbs. That kind of lays like a buffer down for the carbs to not create as big of a blood sugar spike. It is another thing that's important? Is it gonna make or break your entire existence, and has it
Yeah.
been really overhyped? Yes. Is it something really simple you can do to not get that, "Oh my gosh, my blood sugar's high, and now I'm eating, and now I don't wanna eat my vegetables and my protein." It's even just from a palate standpoint, kinda the best way to do it. Like, eat your vegetables first, then enjoy your protein, and then, like, have the carbs last because they will have this, like, buffer, um, that doesn't spike your glucose so much,
Yeah,
so
but if you don't do it, no problem. Like,
it's not the end of the
you
world.
don't have to be
It's
perfect about up on it. The point is not to be neurotic about it
yeah.
either. Uh, so yeah, if you eat your veggies first, great. If you eat them second, okay. But yeah, you don't need to be crazy about it.
It's also just, like, think of it like a little simple hack, but the other way to look at it is, like, if you're at a buffet or at a house party or something, right? And there's all these different foods and snacks, and there's a veggie tray. Go to the veggie tray first because it's gonna, again, blunt the carbs. It's gonna fill up your stomach a little bit with very low calories. It's gonna kind of start the digestive process, and then go grab the, I don't know, pigs in a blanket or the crackers or anything else. It's kind of just a good practice overall of, say, I mean, again, it's cheesy, but think about what parents tell their kids, like, "Eat your vegetables."
Eat your vegetables. Yeah.
Eat your vegetables and eat them first, and then you could have dessert. It sounds cheesy, but it really, especially if you're in that, "Oh my gosh, I'm hungry, I'm starving, I'm gonna grab this first," and before you've even had a chance to process or think, you've eaten 1,000 calories and cookies, you're not gonna go choose the carrot sticks at that point, you know? And the damage is kind of already done from a sugar, insulin spike kind of perspective. So it's just a good simple rule of thumb from a mental standpoint, a calorie standpoint, and a blood sugar standpoint of, whenever possible, eat some vegetables first or something with fiber, and try to get that in daily for sure. All right, moving on to healthy
Healthy
fats.
fats, yeah. Healthy fats are great, and they need to be a part of your diet in one way or another. What's a healthy fat? Well, consider those saturated fats or monounsaturated fats. When good sources of those are eggs, olive oil, butter, ghee, avocado oil, nuts. And with these healthy fats, if you include them regularly in your diet, they'll help your hormonal balance, they will help your brain function, and your satiety overall. I recommend to stay away from polyunsaturated fatty acids or PUFAs. Those are your canola oil, your seed oils. I know that's a big one that's in the news these days. I've always recommended to just kind of shy away from those as best you can. It's almost impossible, especially if you eat out. But if you do your best to stick to the healthy fats that I've mentioned, you'll be on the right track.
I think if you're not watching the video, I roll a lot because I just, Tim's not on social media and I unfortunately am. So I just feel like I'm constantly seeing kind of the worst of the worst in terms of influencer information and all these trends in the way, especially since platforms started just paying people to produce content. They'll do and say anything to actually create controversy and engage interactions, negative or positive. And that honestly sometimes means just creating rage bait, like blatant lies and being really passionate about stuff. And so I absolutely loathe that about the social media space and the online space because it confuses people, and then it has people like put a stake in the ground against something that's not even backed by the amount of evidence that they think it is. It's just, it's fueled by so much emotion, and they just think it has to be right because someone's really passionately talking about it or twisting the science. So that point is really to speak to, should you stay away from highly processed seed oils? Yes. We've done that for the last decade, right? And then we went a little deeper into it with the Ray Peat stuff and learned a little more, and there's always been something that we're like, yeah. But Tim can get a little more neurotic about things, I think, sometimes, because he's more black and white, and I'm like always kind of, well, what about? What about? And there was definitely a time where we would go out and he would just be like, absolutely not. That has seed oil. I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Like, again, we're not at home frying chicken cutlets in canola oil or like downing regular salad dressing on our salads. It's like, we're going to be fine. So I think the influencer world has now, the newest enemy is seed oil, seed oils, seed oils. And oh my gosh, I went to this biohacking conference in LA year before last, I think. And I followed like all the speakers and stuff. I hadn't been to anything like that in a while. And I kind of was like, oh, cool, like health people. Like literally within a couple weeks, I unfollowed all of these people because they were so just crazy obsessive about stuff, including that night they all went out to dinner, like the big famous people, and they were like, they took a menu and they took a red marker and they marked off. I'm like, first of all, that's not even your property. That's like the restaurant menu, you jerk. But they took a big red marker for the gram and crossed out everything on the menu that had seed oils, and there was like one thing left, and they made this big to do. And I literally just wanted to vomit because I'm like, first of all, you go to a restaurant, you could have looked at this beforehand. If you were that concerned about it, you could have just cooked at home. But no, you wanted to make this big, grandiose point and create content and create this holier than thou. We're so much better than you, and we wouldn't ever touch a seed oil. That repulses me. Like, that is what induces the eye rolls for me. So just like the keto thing. Should you try to stay away from them? Sure. But in the grand scheme of things, if you go out with your family, enjoy a freaking meal and don't be obsessed about if there's some seed oils and things. If it's not an allergy, it's not like really going to harm your health to consume something. The enjoyment by letting down your stress and being in the moment and laughing and enjoying the food is far more beneficial than the harm or the inflammatory nature of a couple seed oils. So I think it's one of those things that, again, tried and true. Has it just kind of been a staple and a principle? Yes. Has it gotten so completely blown out of proportion and fear-mongered and exaggerated? Absolutely, times 1,000,000,000. And now what I always see with these trends, and I've seen for, years and years, is now you go in a store and the new label on every single box of something is no seed oil, seed oil free. And it's just like people are buying it because they think it's healthy, and maybe it never had an oil to begin with. Just like when something's marketed gluten free, but it's yogurt. Years ago, I remember I've been gluten free for like about 16, 17 years. And this client sent me a yogurt. And she's like, look, it's gluten free. And I was like, it's always been gluten free.
Always
Like,
has
it's
been.
yogurt. So it's just that same nature is that people are like, oh, and now if it's seed oil free, then it's healthy. No, it's still chips, deep fried and whatever, and full of calories and not the best choice. So that kind of just that speaks to the hype, the fads, the extremes in the nutrition space, and then the marketing scams that kind of make you think something's healthy when it has this label on it that isn't necessarily healthy. So another rant, but with all of this stuff, I get really spicy. So
Yeah, I think the big thing to mention is to not be neurotic about it.
yeah, don't
Um,
be crazy.
don't yeah.
Curious, not crazy.
Curious, not crazy. Um, if you want to go off the deep end with avoiding seed oils, just never go out to eat.
Which sounds like a terrible life.
It really is. But when you do go out to eat, really enjoy your food. Like
Yeah.
that is gonna be more beneficial for your health than the damage that the food could ever do to you. So really important to enjoy it, whoever you're there with, enjoy them, enjoy your food with them. Like that's super important. So easy on the neuroticism as best you can.
Yeah. And just a quick little note, the curious, not crazy is kind of we have these like family statements that we use a lot. We went and traveled to see my sister a couple years ago, and she has this whole family of deer that come in her backyard, and they come like right up to her back door if she hasn't like fed them. And Neo, our pit bull, was with us, and he's literally laying in the living room, and these deer start coming up, and he starts like freaking out because he's like, oh my gosh, like he's practically like a couple feet away, and he starts growling and stuff, and he goes up, but he also acted scared because 'cause they're like big animals. And so that this whole thing was born when I told him, I was like, "You can be curious, just not crazy. Curious, not crazy." And so we use that with him all the time, but it's actually just kind of comical and cute how many times and places it's applicable to say, "Be curious, just not crazy." So just had to give you guys the backstory of that curious, not crazy thing. You might hear us say that before or again in the future. All right. So final two that are going to really set all of this into place and, kind of put it into your action steps. And we're going to go into prepping your food and then how to stay consistent and just keeping it simple. So if you want to talk about the food prep one a little bit or
Yep. So yeah, this one can get really complicated if you let it, but it can also be pretty simple too. Um, so prep your food even a little bit. Like you don't need to do like a full meal prep where you're portioning out your meals for like the entire week. That's an option if you have time for it, but I know a lot of people just don't really have time. So one solution could be to bulk prepare your protein. Like if you got like a bunch of ground turkey or chicken, you can make a huge batch of that and store it and then portion out as you need it. Same thing with an easy bulk carb source like rice. Rice is a great one. Choose whichever one you want. White rice, brown rice, wild rice. They cook differently. They all taste differently. They're all roughly the same for the most part. I mean, you can make arguments with them in their differences, but it's a whole food. It's good. um, and then keep some simple foods on hand. We talked about fruit. That's a really simple one. You can just grab it and go if you need it. Um, certain certain natural peanut butters are good and easy to have on hand. Um, what are some other ones you can think of?
there's I mean, the bulk part of it really is the simplest, but I think the thing that needs to be referenced here, like, again, just looking at all the people I've worked with over the years, coming from an athlete mindset like both of us were, Tem has done strength sports and I did strength sports, but before that I did fitness competitions. And the thing that like my coach drilled into my head from day one was like, you eat for purpose, not for pleasure. And so I adopted that mindset and wanting to be lean or wanting to train for performance as a strength athlete, that has been a part of our lives that is not the normal, right? So like our mindset is very rigid because it's not normal to go torture your body in strength sports or, force yourself to eat a certain amount of protein. For the average everyday person, I think one of the biggest barriers is they don't want to eat just plain chicken and rice. They do that one time and they're bored and they're over it and they kind of abandon ship. So I'm going to tell you the best way I know how to tell you to prep and kind of get on board with this whole healthy eating thing is a mindset shift here around food needing to be the most exciting, pleasurable, wonderful, diverse, novel thing in existence every day. Because if you don't at least look at that and try to deprogram that a little bit, you're never going to be able to stick with healthy whole foods unless you are really just a chef and you want to get super creative and you have all this time and creativity to pour into the kitchen to make it new and novel. However, there is a really big difference from where you might be right now where you're eating fast food or eating out every day, or it's packaged meals and you've got all of this sugar, all of these chemicals, all of these additives, and you're not eating to nourish your body, you're eating for pleasure, you're eating for your mouth, not your body. And what happens when you actually start eating for your body. And it may seem impossible for you to imagine a world where you eat ground turkey every day for lunch for a week, much less indefinitely. Like we always have ground turkey in the fridge. And it's like one of the things we eat at least once a day, and we just always eat it. It's not a thought for us. However, we still have lots of really delicious meals that we make and we enjoy going out. We kind of have the best of both worlds. But if we were ever stuck on, oh my gosh, we need to have a delicious, tantalizing to our taste buds meal every day, we wouldn't stick to our goals. We wouldn't have the health that we have. So just know that there's a kind of a detoxification process and period that you'll go through when you go from eating all that highly palatable food to whole simple foods. But then the great news is that's temporary, okay? Once your taste buds adapt and adjust, which they literally renew and they learn, your taste buds are like their own little brains. They get programmed and wired to want what you're eating, which goes back to the whole sugar thing. When you're not having sugar and you're not drinking Diet Coke to try to curb your sweet cravings, and you're not having just pure carbs and sugar and, cereal and donuts for breakfast, guess what? Your body starts to crave the protein and fruit for breakfast and crave the whole grain rice and ground turkey for dinner. And again, it's really exciting when you use a different sauce or seasoning. That happens. I promise you it happens. It just takes a couple weeks. Like, if either one of us went and ate something that is, like, really out of the norm, like, kind of a normal food, whether it was something deep fried or just, like, an off the shelf, like, Little Debbie cake, even some of the protein bars and stuff that we used to kinda have in our world, we've tried them over the last couple years because I think we've kinda always just polished and cleaned up our diet a little more. And we literally are like, "This just tastes like a chemical shit show." Like, it just tastes disgusting because we haven't had them in so long, and we used to rely on those things a lot more from just a schedule standpoint and all of that. So, it absolutely happens. It may seem impossible now, and you may go through this period where you're like, "This whole simple, prepped, redundant food thing is not for me. I can't handle it." Give yourself a 4-week window to do this, and you will be astonished at the way you start to crave those foods and be turned off by those other foods. It's not that you're never gonna crave them or that you're never gonna eat them, but
Excuse me.
but it's not going to feel like what it feels like now. So when you're prepping these foods and you're thinking like, "What? Just baked chicken and rice or potatoes or whatever," just know that that can be a lot more satisfying than it may feel right now. I just know that clients that was always their biggest thing is just, "Wait, what? You're eating the same food over and over again? How do you do that?" And I think their mindset was always the thing that stopped them from ever even considering the possibility that it could be different. But the ones who did, because I would have this exact conversation, I'd be like, "Trust me." Like, Zevia sodas were one of the big ones with people that, were big Diet Coke drinkers or Coke drinkers. I would try to at least get them to a healthier version, and Zevia sodas are still pretty sweet, but it's stevia, it's a completely different molecule and chemical than aspartame or anything else, and they would always buy them, and they would always be like, "Oh my gosh, it tasted terrible." And I'm like, just try to get through the next
Yep.
12 cans. And I would tell them, all you have to do is open the can and drink 1 or 2 sips. Like, don't even tell yourself you need to enjoy it or like it or drink the whole can. But every time they would do that, they'd be like, "Actually, it's not so bad. Actually, I kind of enjoy that. Actually, this is kind of good." And within a couple weeks, again, I'm talking hundreds of times, they would be like, "Oh my gosh, I crave those now," and inevitably, there would always be a moment where they were like, today at work, I grabbed a fountain Diet Coke. I was, like, craving one, or I thought I wanted one, and I wanted to barf. Like, it was so gross. It tasted like chemicals. I can't believe I drank that all day, every day. So that's a big thing that I think you should definitely know. If you stick to a 4-week time frame, I'm going to prep my food. I'm going to eat whole, simple. I'm not going to get caught up in all the crazy trends and extremes. And I'm going to unfollow all of these influencers and health gurus. I'm just going to follow this simple format. And that's it, which, by the way, in the show notes, we'll put a little PDF of like a printable version of this because I think it's so helpful to just see things. I'm big on like, put it in front of you. Print this off, 10 principles of nutrition that I need to focus on for the next 4 weeks. And we'll do a little habit tracker where each day you eat whole foods and you prioritize your protein. You can
Yep.
do that, get a little dopamine hit. But just commit to that 4-week time frame with that. And the other thing I'll say with the prepping your food, I knew that this would kinda come to me as we're breaking this down because I just constantly think about what barriers do people run into? What are the rebuttals? Having done this full time as my career for so many years, it gives me an inside look into people's lives where I can say, like, "I already know what you're thinking, and I already know how this is gonna go for you." So that's valuable stuff to add in here. Um, if you are an entrepreneur, you work a million hours, you have a lot of kiddos, you're working part time in school, whatever, like, we're all really busy, right? And food prep is just not something that you can even like comprehend or fathom being able to do. And you're already like, no, I just can't. I just cannot. It's a DoorDash. It's a grab what I can, eat stuff crackers in my face when I'm driving down the road. If that's you and you can afford a meal prep service, hands down, that's what I recommend to people across the board. 15 years ago, when I was doing food prep, I would do like what Tim mentioned. Sunday was literally a full-time job of like 6 to 8 hours in the kitchen of portioning 4 meals a day, weighing everything out. I mean, my refrigerator was just Tupperware on Tupperware. I know what that's like. And we're not even suggesting that, but even just prepping out your meals and cooking, it's a lot. We recognize that. We're real people too, and even we drop the ball sometimes. But even recently, even though we don't totally love the amount that it cost us, with all of the new projects and all the new things, we had to sit down and I was like, look, one of the things we're spending a lot of time on right now that we really need for these other projects and these other priorities is some of these hours back, and we're just gonna have to sacrifice this cost, like, bite the bullet on it so that we have this food, so we're not skipping meals, because we were skipping so much, like, specifically with Tim, he wasn't getting enough food in, we were skipping meals, or the weeks that we did prep, we just were straight out of time, we did not have time to do other stuff. So, it can be a seasonal thing that you rely on when it's extra busy, it can be a, "I'm putting this in my budget, and I'm gonna cut what else I need to make it happen." It can be you just want different flavor profiles because that's a really good thing with food prep services. You don't have to think about it and put your brain power in what am I going to cook. It's cooked, it's flavored, it's new, different things that, flavor profiles we don't personally cook with. It's portioned. It's like literally the only negative is the waste. Yes, it's plastic, and
Yeah.
we recommend you take them out of the plastic before you microwave them or heat them up on a stove. And it does, again, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have plastic consumption, but it is what it is in terms of that can be a game changer for you. And if you have the resources to do that, invest your money there. It's absolutely worth it. In the show notes, we'll also put our top 3 because we've, I think, tried every service out there,
Yeah.
and they are not all the same. Again, we could probably do a whole episode breaking those down, but there are some really good ones with high quality food, whether you're gluten-free, any kind of dietary restriction that you have. So either prep or get a food prep service, but work on the mindset and know that the redundancy of simple, clean foods is a change in your brain that can happen, and that's a lot of add-ons to that component, but again, necessary. So we'll finish with the 10th component of the first pillar, which is just keep it simple and consistent, which I think we've already said a lot of different ways.
Yeah, we
So
kind of been saying that the entire time.
yeah.
Like it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be repeatable. It needs to be repeatable for you. Like, for some people, repeatable means they can prep all their meals like every weekend. They have no problem with that. For other people, repeatable is going to be like maybe prepping like the night before or something like that. The point is that you do it consistently. So you're trying to eat the same meals every week from whole food sources. Um, there's less decision fatigue. So you don't really have to think about it. You don't have to think about, oh, what am I going to have for lunch today? Well, I know because I brought it with me. I prepped it.
Yeah.
Um, and overall, just more consistency. If you can do that for like 30 to 60 days to start with, you will notice a difference. You're gonna feel better. You will have less stress about food. And if you do it kind of the bland way, it doesn't have to be bland. You can use salt. Salt's good. Um, if you eat kind of the same sort of foods throughout the week and for your lunches and everything, a crazy thing happens. It starts to become more natural for you. And then when you do go out to eat and you eat foods at restaurants, they taste so much better and you enjoy it so much more. It's not just like a mundane thing like, oh, we're going out to Burton's again,
Mm.
you know? You end up enjoying food so much more and you overall you just feel better.
And I think the biggest thing is like a tie this all up with a bow. People don't often fail a diet or a nutrition program or a lifestyle change because of the reasons they think. It's not that they lack willpower or whatever, it's that they don't pick a path and stick to it and shut out all the noise. I can't tell you how many times I think one of the biggest frustrations with working with people over the years, mostly at the dawn of the social media era when influencer and content started just becoming really widespread. But one of the biggest frustrations was I would tell people all of these things, right? It's always the same, tried and true, year after year. And then they would come back and they'd be like, yeah, but like, what about this carnivore diet? And it's like, again, going back to what we've already said, but then they would actually try to be like, "Well, I'll do this whole food thing and then this, like, carb balance thing, but then carnivore, but then also keto." And guess what? The thing that you should know about all of these different lifestyle things is they're not compatible with each other. You cannot mix and match whole food, plant-based, keto, carnivore, vegan, like, they do not go together, okay? You cannot just be like, "I'll do kind of this and kind of this and kind of this because this person looks good and I wanna look like her and I like her social media," and may intentionally confuse themselves because they don't turn off the noise. They keep consuming content. They keep looking for the next best thing. They keep looking for a trick or a hack that's going to speed up the process. And then they're not doing any one thing at all. And again, when you're trying to do keto, but you're over here eating carbs because you think a little bit of carbs won't matter, but it's completely putting you out of keto and you're eating all this high fat food. And then you feel like crap and you're like, well, diets don't work. None of these diets work for me. They create so much of their own failure by trying to mix and match and not just simplifying it. And the additional final nail in the coffin is the all or nothing mindset. You don't have to be perfect, but just pick a lane and stay in that for at least a 4-week time frame. Otherwise, you have no business trying to judge if it works for you, if you're capable, if you like it, if you're seeing results. And gosh, now more than ever, everything is in a 6-second reel. So you see someone's journey of losing 200 pounds, and guess what? You see it in 6 seconds. And The Biggest Loser started this, but now we just have this short form content frying our brains that shows us all of this. And so our attention span and our patience is like non existent, which is why we have to get offline. That's why I'm going to drop that list below so you can just reference this and have a little check mark every day for 30 days and don't even think about changing anything, adjusting or abandoning ship until you've done that 30 days and then assess and test. Do I like this? What do I need to change? Whatever. And this isn't on the list, but the final thing that I will say, it cannot be overstated the value of having some support or accountability with just basic questions and kind of keeping you motivated or staying the course. You know, if you know a coach that isn't in any of these extremes or that seems really down to earth and kind of follows these principles, um, and that's an option for you. It's a great way to just kind of get through the learning curve and the awkward, I need training wheels kind of phase. It's a great complement to things, but truly if you just follow these steps and you commit to that time frame, you can do so much without needing that extra expense or trying to sort through and find the perfect person. So you can trust yourself a lot more than you think to follow through and show up and do the things when you don't set these huge, insane goals. You're not trying to be perfect. And if you're not, you abandon ship and you're not trying to piece together 500 different things or change your diet every 3 days because you're bored, which again goes to the mindset thing. So I think that kind of pulls everything together. And if you stick with these things, you're truly going to outperform from a health standpoint, from a weight loss, craving, mental health, every benefit possible. You're going to outperform 90+% of the population who's doing all these quick fixes, fads, not eating healthy at all, or doing the extreme things and then can't maintain that extreme, dieting or protocol. So there's a lot to be said for these simple concepts. They're boring. They're not so sexy. They're not gonna make us any viral reel or blow up our Instagram. It's just not gonna happen. There's probably gonna be like 5 people on the planet that listen to this because it's so unsensational. But those 5 people are gonna do the process. They're gonna print out the form, and then they're gonna send us a message because we wanna hear from you. How
Mhm.
did it go? What questions did you have? How did this work for you to have this broken down and simplified? Did you have any light bulbs go off? Did you realize, wow, I'm just overcomplicating it? And are you looking forward to going back to the basics? We want to hear from you. We want to hear what landed from you. We want to hear what questions you have and how this is going for you. Anything final from you, Dr.
No,
Tim?
I think we've we've said it all. I mean, the solution to a lot of problems that actually work usually aren't sexy. It's just simple stuff, done consistently and done well, and it will result in change. That happens with so many things in life. Diet is no exception.
Absolutely. And the algorithms rely on things being complicated, controversial, stressful, and just aggressive, like intense and confusing. They rely on that. So you really have to kind of disconnect from the system, which is a core theme of our beliefs, in life across the board. And like Tim said, nutrition is no exception. Like simplifying and getting away from the noise is where it's at. So we can't wait to hear from you. We hope this helped. Hope this lays the foundation for just one pillar. Do this and then look for pillar 2. We've got 10 pillars total, and we truly are passionate about these principles and how they can change your life. And we're really excited about this series. So we will see you next time.
See ya. If something in today's episode challenged you, encouraged you, or made you think differently, don't let it stay theoretical. I challenge you to take the insights from this show and put it into real action. And I invite you to send us a message and let us know what that action step is so we can rally around you and support you. We truly want to see you win.
This podcast is here to support your growth, mind, body, and beyond. And you do not have to do this alone. Our Instagram is a space where we are truly committed to building community and knowing you by name. I know, crazy in today's world, and we can't wait to connect with you there. So make sure to give us a follow, send us a message, and let us know what your biggest takeaway was from today's episode. We'll see you next time.